reason we're doing this is because God has put such a burden on my heart. We are living in the last days. We are going to see things in the next coming months that are going to scare most mankind. And God's telling us He wants us to be ready. He wants the church to be awake. He wants the church to be holy. And there's times I'll wake up or I'll get ready to go and I'll begin to weep. Because God tells me, and they've heard other ministries and prophets, if you've been on our Facebook page, I've posted other people that have had the same thing. They're saying less than 10% of the church is going to actually be raptured. Because the church in general is not living for God. There's no holiness, there's no passion. They have a name. But like Jesus told the Pharisees and the Sadducees, you speak about me, but your heart's not for me. You know, and it's Paul tells us to test ourselves, check ourselves to see daily if we're in the faith. And today modern evangelism is taught you, don't test yourself, just believe by faith. Believe that you're saved. Just believe it. Say, well, if you believe it, you're going to act it.
Amen.
There's going to be fruits, corresponding action. And that's one of the things we're going to talk on next week is the gospel of the Antichrist. You're going to be surprised when I show you some of the messages that are coming forward out of the church and how they go directly against the scriptures. And yet they're said in such a way, people say, oh, that man of God is so juicy. He's just, it's awesome. And when I expose these things, you're going to look at it in light of the scriptures and say, oh my God. How can we be deceived? Well, the Bible tells us unless we stay close to this word, we're going to be deceived. Jesus made it very simple. Anyway, the Bible prophesies that in the last days, there's going to rise up a kingdom. You know, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. You all know the story. Daniel was summoned, and he explained the meaning of the dream. He told Nebuchadnezzar, you are the head of gold, right? And he said the Medes and the Persians are going to destroy you, and then you're going to have the Grecians that are going to destroy them, and then Rome is going to... That's the kingdom that was ruling during the Apostle Paul and during Peter and those guys' days. All right? And this is why John, Island of Patmos, he said, let me see here. I wasn't prepared with that scripture. That just came out of my mouth. Okay, I'm going to get there anyway. I just jumped way ahead of myself. He said, there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. I believe that's a dual prophecy. We're talking about kingdoms, we're talking about kings. There's 2 of them not showed here. It's Egypt and Syria. They were before Babylon. So there's 7 right there. Now it says 1 is, that's where when John was writing the book of Revelation, that was Rome. But Rome lost its power. If you study history, they lost their influence. Because thank God for people like Martin Luther with the 95 Theses. It broke away. We've got our own Bibles now. The Vatican did not want us to have our own Bible. But later on, Rome got their power back. You know, the European Union, if you look, they've already broken the world up into 10 regions. You know, and the United Nations, they broke us up into 10 regions. It's amazing how this is all falling together. It's falling together scripturally. But one of the things I want to go into is Revelation chapter 17. Before we can understand a lot of the Bible, a lot of the end-time scriptures, you have to understand who this woman is and who this beast is. And I don't want it to just be conjecture because the Bible tells, it makes a very clear distinction, makes a very clear description of who this woman is. And I know people get upset when you start saying, well, this person or this religious organization, but there have been people that have said, well, you know, the 7 heads, you know, John saw this beast, had 7 heads, 10 horns, 7 crowns. Now, the Bible is very clear, and Revelation, it says the 7 heads are the 7 mountains on where this woman is sitting. Okay? Now, here's an interesting thing. The Catholic Encyclopedia says, it is within the city of Rome, called the City of 7 Hills, that the entire area of the Vatican State proper is not defined. That's from their own words. But even if we didn't have that, you know, that would be very dangerous to base doctrine just on that one premise. So we have to go through and look at the rest of the description. Because John gives a very vivid description. He says, and there are 7 kings. Now the 7 kings, you know, we heard Assyria, Egypt, Babylon, Medo Persian, Greece, Rome, and the revived Roman Empire. That's where you see here, we have the legs of iron, but down the bottom you see iron mixed with clay, and there's 10 toes. He's saying there's going to be 10 nations, 10 kingdoms that are going to be set up in these last days, and that's what we're seeing right now. And there's another whole sermon in the clay toes.
That would be the European kingdom.
Yes.
10 toes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And there's another thought too regarding the 10 kings, because before 1929, the Vatican was not known as a sovereign nation. Okay? But in 1929, the Vatican City actually became established as an independent nation, and the popes were no longer just popes, but they were also kings. And there's been, which is pretty interesting, since 1929, 7 popes or 7 kings, counting Pope Benedict.
Yeah.
Pope Benedict's only been ruling a short time, and he's getting ready to retire because he can't handle it. Pretty interesting, I just think, just saying.
So, on a side note, Mussolini was the one who gave the Vatican like land and made it into a state. Napoleon was the one that wanted to destroy the Vatican, and he had his general going, and he had that Pope by the collar, and they threw him in jail. And for a long time they lost their power, but Mussolini was the one that brought it back. So you can see the connection there.
I have a question. Would that be the wound?
Yes, the fatal wound. In fact, there was I got the article, there's an article, a couple newspapers, I don't know if you guys know the newspapers or magazine, actually wrote articles when the Vatican became in 1929, said the deadly wound was healed.
Yeah.
I don't know which one that was.
Well, the deadly wound is when they lost their power to Napoleon. Supposedly.
Now, the next thing I want to talk on here, we're going to go through and look, says, and there came 7 angels which had 7 vials, and talked to me, saying, Come here, and I will show you the judgment of the great whore that sits on many waters, whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. This is just one. I mean, we've got hundreds, and I'm sure Jim and you guys, you probably have lots of pictures of kings and queens and presidents all around the world that you'll see there's even Muslims kissing the hand of the Pope. Yeah, exactly. So the whole world recognizes this man. These guys have bragged about the ability to take away power and give power to earthly rulers.
Yeah, they used to back in the Dark Ages. They still do today. They install presidents, but they installed kings and queens, if you remember your history. And if they didn't align themselves with the church, they take them right out. So it's actually who was in power. And the same thing's going on today. They kiss and bow and worship this Pope.
Then it goes on to say, inhabitants of the earth had made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Now the wine of her fornication it's a mixing of the Babylonian religion. It's just got a new name. It's got a new title. They've Christianized it. In fact, the Virgin Mary that you see people worshiping, that goes all the way back to Babylon. It's in India. There she's known by lots of names. Isis, Madonna, many other names. You know what I'm saying? What's that? Yeah. And you notice the moon under her feet in a lot of these pictures.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I think is interesting to know is during the Inquisition, they were killing, the Vatican killed millions of Jews and Christians who did not bow down to the Pope. Now, when that ended, they had to find another way of doing it. So what they did is in 600 AD, they created the Islamic religion. People think that was created by the Vatican to be the sword of the Vatican. And so even to this day, as you just saw with the picture, you have Muslims, the Islamic people that will kiss down, they'll bow down to the Pope. They'll also go and they'll travel to see these apparitions of Mary. They honor her, they venerate her. They have no problem with the Catholic Church because they believe that's the quote-unquote true church. And so that's just one of the many weapons that the Vatican has to help bring people back under its banner.
Yes, even with Protestant churches, which wasn't one of their creations, after the Reformation, they have long since, for many, many years, to infiltrate and install their own puppets that's why you see today that homosexuality and gay marriage, and not a peak, although maybe a little bit. But you wonder, where are all the churches? Where are they standing up for God's will? And that's the reason, is their silence. It's been taken over a long time ago. There's a few pockets of small churches, which does align with Revelation also, because we're told that the church will be small, it'll be a remnant church, it'll be the bride waiting for birth.
That's right.
And as you can see here, and as you can see here, the prayer beads, the Roman Catholics were not the only ones that use them. The Buddhists use them. The Islamic people use them. Hindus use them. And it actually goes all the way back to Babylon. The Babylonians use them. These are pagan images. They're pagan tools. You'll see the all-seeing eye on a dollar bill. Also the all-seeing eye in these icons that are actually in the Vatican, different Catholic churches. And a lot of times, one of the things they said is one of the best places to hide their symbolism is in plain sight. I mean, Jim's got
Oh, yeah, that's definitely, they don't hide anything from us. They do lie, or they lie by omission and will not tell us, and, if we don't figure it out, too bad. But everything is in plain sight that they do. Just happen to have discernment. That's why I brought David today. David's a young man who's been researching this since he was early teen, right? 15 years old.
Wow.
And
Can I have a question? David, how did you catch on to that? What made you decide to study that?
Well, I first came in on this because my mom was watching TV, and watching California, there was a guy named Scott McGraw. He was talking about man with the inside job, how the CIA used that to do psychological warfare, and that to launch all these state wars and all that. That was very interesting. He explained it, stuff like that. And ever since I got to learn all other things and Illuminati groups and everything. So it's just one step after another. And that's I got also to the little class.
Wow.
that's why I brought him, I invited him, because it's going to be a blessing to the church. Anytime you want to add something, it's going to be very brief. I mean, we just have this knowledge for weeks and that's amazing. Because he has the memory, I wish I had the memory of a young man. He's the memory of a young man. And I forget, I even forget, after lunch lesson.
Well, I even talked to Jim, seeing if we can get together after church to do some more stuff, where we can put some more stuff together.
Yeah.
So if people are interested, they can get some more online and put it online. But,
And he's a man of God. He studies the Bible regularly. And while he's researching these other aspects of what we're talking about here, he's putting this stuff together. Making sure it aligns.
Jimmy, how old is the young man now?
I'm sorry?
How old is he?
19.
19, I was going to say 19 or 20.
Like I said, when I look, we just like that too. As you notice here, Pope Benedict, you'll see him news flipping. He was also a Hitler Youth. A lot of people think Pope John Paul II was a Christian, but if you look at the seat he sat in, this is a clip from CNN, a picture. It's an upside down cross. You see here, it's an upside down cross. Upside down crosses are used a lot in occult. Constantly. Here you see him receiving the mark of Shiva, which is synonymous for Satan. Now, if you're a Christian, you're not going to let anybody place any kind of occult or occultic mark on you. Here he's kissing the crown, which adamantly denies Jesus as God. So it's really interesting, and it's also interesting to note that William Cooper, who was a retired naval officer, you guys can jump in any time, he was actually assassinated shortly after he wrote a book called The Pale Horse. But in the book, he told about how Pope John Paul II was actually sold cyanide to Hitler to exterminate the Jews before he was a pope.